أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah khair for joining tonight, all the curious minds. Last week, we learned the highlights of our four caliphs, four rightly guided caliphs, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali radhiyallahu anhu. We have also discussed the conflict that arose between Muawiyah, Ali, and Aisha radhiyallahu anhu on the issue of Uthman's death. Also, how the Khawarij group was developed that time, and we stopped at the point when they assassinated Ali radhiyallahu anhu. Very often time, our history curriculum ends there, okay? And we don't get to see that 90 years of Umayyads and many years in Spain and Abbasids and Ottoman, all these these don't get discussed much very often. So inshallah, I will say, please go ahead and take notes, write down your questions, and I will give you opportunity at the end, a question answer session, inshallah. And this is going to be a very, I'll say, because we're going to discuss a dynasty. So there will be a lot of names. So a lot of names are similar. Sometimes it can be confusing. I'll try my best to avoid the confusion, which will be really hard. However, I will try our best. So you don't have to remember all the names we're going to discuss today. It is not possible. Just to listen one lecture, you cannot grasp or cannot remember what happened in Umayyads. So probably, inshallah, this will be starting for you. And then you can go ahead and learn more. So then when you read more, when you listen more to different lectures, inshallah, it will stick to your head and you'll get used to of it. So let's begin. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he died at 630 AD, we know, and then next 30 years we had rightly guided caliph. So then inshallah, this is gonna start the time period we're starting 661 AD to 750 AD. Okay, just visualize yourself that which time zone we're actually talking about. It helps to connect all the dots. All right. So words for tonight as we go every session. So today is, first one is rebels. What is a rebel? What is rebel means? A person who rises in opposition or armed resistance against an established government or rulers. Dynasty. What is a dynasty? A line of hereditary rulers of a country, means that father and then son, then grandson, then the cousins and their children's, they're all ruling a country one after another. It can be a country, it can be a continent, it can be a massive land. So that's called dynasty. What is ijtihad? Ijtihad means the independent or original interpretation of a problem. Let's say you have a problem, we have a problem, but then we don't have a precise answer from Quran and Sunnah or from the scholars. Like all the scholars could not make a decision about that problem. So sometimes people, like a scholar, some scholars, different scholars, they come up with the solution based on their knowledge on Quran and Sunnah. So that kind of decision is called ijtihad. Why I'm talking about all this? Because this is going to be helpful when we are discussing the Umayyads. So what is tabi'i? Tabi'i means that someone who, like a tabi means who saw the Sahaba, but they haven't seen Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. What is Sahaba? Sahaba means the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So who saw Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Those generation are called Sahaba. The next generation, the generation who didn't see Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is jizya? Jizya is a tax or a money that non-Muslims used to pay in Muslim land. And the Muslim used to give, so the Muslim used to give protection and Muslim ruler used to give protection and the rights to live in peace in that Muslim land. That's called jizya. So only the non-Muslims supposed to pay the jizya to the Muslim ruler. What is siege? Siege means take hold or suddenly, forcibly. Like if I say he sieged his hand. So like forcibly you stopped his hand or forcibly you are stopping something. That's called siege. So scribe is a person who copies out documents, especially one employed to do this before printing was invented. So when the printing was not there, there were people who were employed that they used to copy documents and all books, letters, all these. Okay. So after Ali radiallahu anhu was killed by Khawarij, Ummah needed a leader. Ummah needed another leader. So if you remember, the Muawiyah was already governor in Syria at that time. Remember, the Syria was Muawiyah was already leading Syria, and Ali radiallahu anhu was the other Khalif for the rest of the Muslim world. So, and then Khawarij didn't like that, so they sent people to assassinate Ali and Muawiyah. But then assassination they were successful to kill Ali, but they were not successful to kill Muawiyah. So in this point, Ummah needed another leader. So if you remember, Muawiyah was already governor in Syria. So what happens naturally? That Muawiyah became the next Caliph. Before that, I'm going to just say very quickly a thing that when we read our history books, we see that the Umayyads were very neglected because the history is written by the winners. So most of the books were written in Abbasid time or Ottoman Empire time. So there is always a negative towards Ummayyad's dynasty. However, there is negatives and positives in every dynasty, Umayyads, Abbasids, and Ottomans. So because we know from the hadith that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, after 30 years, there will be good kings, there will be bad kings. All right. So basic overview of Umayyads. Who are Umayyads? So Umayyads are the people, they come from the group So they came from the Quraish. Uthman, our first Umayyad Khalif was actually Uthman bin Affan radhiyallahu anhu. But he was not considered as a part of Ummayyad dynasty. Why? Because he was part of our rightly guided Khalif. And also, after Uthman, the Khalifa did not stay in Umayyad's family, right? Because Ali became the Khalif after him. But Muawiyah, we know, remember we were talking that Uthman radhiyallahu anhu, he appointed a lot of governor from his family. Why? Because they were very experienced in leadership. And their family used to be in politics and leadership. They had the experience. So he appointed Muawiyah already there. So when Muawiyah became the Khalif, first was Muawiyah radhiyallahu, and then his son Yajit, and then his grandson. Let's talk about that. So this was followed by a period of civil war. Okay, I'll talk about all these one by one. So just an overview that Muawiyah and his son and his grandson, that is one portion of Muayyad's empire. And then second empire was Marwan ibn Hakam and his descendants. And the third empire was Abdurahman and his descendants in Andalus. So we are not going to discuss today the third empire, Abdurahman and his descendants in Andalus, because we need actually a separate class for that. So that's going to come later. I will inshallah discuss that. Today we'll try to focus on Muawiyah, his son, his grandson, and the second empire, Marwan ibn Hakim and their descendants. Inshallah, okay? All right, so before I start, because we know that we have lots of misconceptions about Muawiyah radhiyallahu anhu, he was a Sahaba, we have to remember that. I'm going to just clarify a few things before I start. So he was a son of Abu Sufyan and Hind bint Utbah. We need to be positive about him when we talk about him because he was a Sahaba. Sahaba has different ranks. So Muawiyah became a Muslim more likely after the conquest of Makkah or during the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. So he was not in the same rank as Abu Bakr and Uthman and Umar and Ali radhiyallahu anhu, that is for sure. But we have to remember he was a Sahaba and he was a scribe of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and especially for the letters which were sent out to other nations. And Allah knows best. Also, he lived through the plague during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. And after that, Muawiyah was in charge of Damascus in Syria. So he was appointed by Umar radiallahu anhu during the time in Syria. He became the governor for 20 years during the time of Umar, and then Uthman, and then Ali. So that was his 20 years. He also spent his life in politics mostly. He was the Khalifa for the next 20 years after the Ali was killed by Khawarij. Ali was not killed by Muawiyah. In total, Muawiyah ruled for 40 years. He came from a very noble family who were skilled in politics. He came from which family? From Umayyads. And he was first, so Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also prayed for Muawiyah. He was also the first commander of Muslim Navy, which was created in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu. If we remember last time, that Uthman radiallahu anhu was the first that who created the Muslim Navy. So Muawiyah was their commander. So obviously a navy is something was new for Muslims. All right. And he went for battle. He went for jihad, offensive jihad with these navy as a navy commander. And also Ibn Abbas, he's one of our great Sahaba, he said that Muawiyah was a faqih himself. He was a mujtahid, that he were able to draw rulings from Quran and Sunnah for specific issues. So there is not much to write about his era. You know why? Because during the time of Muawiyah, it was a very peaceful time. He was an incredible ruler. He maintained the loyalty of the people. His time, the land prospered. He ended the civil war that was happening. Remember the mob people? They were trying to, they created the big fitna between the Ali and Aisha and Muawiyah and all these. But during the time of Muawiyah, he ended the civil war. When Ali was killed, people in Iraq and Medina wanted Hassan to be the leader. Okay, so imagine the situation that people in Medina and Iraq, they wanted Hassan to be the leader. And Hassan took a few months to think about it. And then he handed the leadership to Muawiyah because he didn't want any more division of the Ummah. So when the leadership was given to Muawiyah, he crushed all the civil wars at his management. And it was a very different management. During the time of Ummah, his time, the Ummah expanded in 4 directions. And we see that whenever that Muslims are united, they expand. You know, when people are united, it is meant to have blessings in that time. So we see this in the time of Umar and the first half of Uthman radiallahu anhu, that how the Muslim lands expanded. So now next it happened at the time of Muawiyah. All right, so now let's move there. Accomplishment during his era. So I said all these. There was no internal strife for full 20 years. Ummah expanded. Constantinople was besieged for the first time in his history. He developed a very strong navy. And also Muawiyah developed a postal and a registry system. Now, so what happened? This Constantinople, remember Constantinople? We learned about the first week that time the Constantinoples are there. They were besieged for the first time in the history. So they were very, very powerful that time. So they were very powerful. They were flourished. So many things happening. So actually, Muslim did not win that war, that attack. But what happened? It was a very psychological victory because sending even an army to the Romans, it was a big thing, very big thing. No one could even think to touch the Roman Empire that time. So the neighboring tribes decided to started from that point, they started to take Muslims seriously. Okay, so Abu Sufyan's, Muawiyah's father, he died as a Sahaba. The Umayyads were experts in administration and in management. It was in their blood. Okay, as we discussed last time, that Uthman put a lot of Umayyads in the positions of leadership because the politics, the management, the administration, this was in their blood. They grew up seeing this, their fathers doing it, their grandparents are doing it. So other Sahabas, they were like scholars, traders, warriors, muhaddithin. Not necessarily everybody was experienced administrators. Okay, so as Muawiyah gets older, he realized that he needs to appoint a successor. So he suggested Yajit become the next Khalifa. Okay, so when it comes to the time of Yajit, death of, all right, so that time, lot of Sahabas passed away. Okay, many Sahabas, early Sahabas, they passed away. So like Amr ibn al-As, Ziyad ibn Abi Sufyan, Hassan ibn Ali, Abu Huraira, and Aisha bin Abi Bakr. So everybody passed, these Sahabas, they passed away, okay? So he passed away, Muawiyah passed away in 600, after the Hijrah of 61 AH. For natural causes, he passed away without any. He advised Yajid to follow the way of Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman and treat Hussein well, okay? Even though the remaining senior Sahabas did not accept Yajid. So who are those remaining Sahabas? If we remember these names, if you can, because these names, we will need these names. So Abdullah bin Zubair, so the son of Zubair, Abdullah ibn Umar radhiyallahu son, Abdullah ibn Abbas, so Ibn Abbas son, and Hussein ibn Ali, so Ali's son. So four of the Sahabas, they were the Sahabas, they were the son of our senior Sahabas. So Zubair, Zubair, Umar, Ibn Abbas, and Ali. So there are few reasons that the Sahaba didn't like Yazid to be next Caliph. First of all, there are still few more righteous Sahabas still alive that time. And if you appoint your son, it might start a monarchy. It's not haram, but sometimes if you start your if you appoint your son, then it might start a monarchy in the family. Many people were very suitable than Yazid. And Yazid was not known for his knowledge. He was not known for his piety, any other extraordinary qualities. So he was not for anything. Okay, so he became the new Caliph. But what happened? So Muawiyah wanted to choose someone before he passed away. He didn't want the Muslims to become without a leader once more time. So this was his ijtihad. Remember, we were talking that he didn't have any direct explanation from Hadith and the Quran explicitly forbidding that you cannot choose your son or your family member. So when Umar was attacked in his deathbed, many Sahaba proposed that Abdullah ibn Umar should become the next Khalifa. So it shows that it is not haram to choose your son. But this ijtihad of Muawiyah radhiyallahu anhu became a disaster. So unfortunately, it was a mistake, but we cannot blame it to Muawiyah entirely on him because he chose, yes, he made a wrong decision, but we cannot blame what Yajid did as a Khalif to Muawiyah. I hope that's clear for you guys. Inshallah, we'll discuss that more. So Muawiyah passed away, and then he's, okay, all right, we talked about this. So now let's talk about controversies about Muawiyah, right? I think I already covered it. So Muawiyah made two major errors, which Shia and some other groups, they hold against him. Battle of Siffin, if you remember the battles of Siffin, that he had a war with Ali radhiyallahu anhu, we call that is a battle of Siffin, and the appointment of Yajid as his successor. Neither are major sin to erase all his good deeds and outweigh them. They were both ijtihadi mistake. Okay, that was both his decisional mistake. But we cannot erase all his good deeds that he has done. So sincere ijtihad mistakes are forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Sahaba, the Tabi'in, the major scholars, all respected him. So hating him is the way of the Shia, not the way of the Salaf. All right. Okay, so Muawiyah's, now I think we already talked about it. Next is Yajit's appointment. So Mughira ibn Shubah, he suggested that Yajit to be appointed as Muawiyah's successor, and governors from the different provinces to pledge of allegiance to Yazid. Remember last week we learned what is pledge? Accepting someone as our leader. All right. So this idea was opposed right away with two different groups. So one group, I think we already talked about all these reason. So one group was ulama group, scholar group. In that group, we have Abdullah ibn Umar and Abdullah ibn Abbas. These two Sahaba, they gave bay'ah to Yajit, and they chose to stay in Medina and decided not to get involved. Which two? Abdullah ibn Umar, the son of Umar, and Abdullah ibn Abbas. So they gave bay'ah to Yajid, and they said, you know what, we're not going to deal with this. They left. Another group was warrior group. So Abdullah ibn Zubair and Hussein ibn Ali, they were in another group. So they escaped to Makkah because they decided they're not going to give pledge to Yajid. They're like, we don't agree. We're not giving bay'ah to him to become our Khalif. So they went to Makkah. So when Abdullah ibn Zubair went to Makkah, what he did, he called himself Khalifa. So sometimes we think that the last Khalifa was Ali radhiyallahu anhu. Definitely he was our last rightly guided Khalifa, but last Sahabi to hold the claim, like he claimed himself Khalifa, was our Abdullah ibn Zubair. Who was this? He was Abdullah ibn Zubair. So who was Abdullah ibn Zubair? Who is this person? So he was the first child born after Hijrah, when all the people went from Makkah to Medina. They did the Hijrah. So the firstborn child of the Sahaba was our Abdullah ibn Zubair. He came from a very prestigious lineage. His father was Zubair ibn Awam. His mother was Asma bint Abu Bakr. So he was a grandson of our Abu Bakr. History is not black and white. There is always room for ijtihad, and there's always room for rebel against the ruler. So in this point, imagine this point. So Yajid became the new Khalifa. Everybody gave bay'ah to him. Whoever didn't want to give him bay'ah, he forced them. So one group of Sahaba, they were scholars, they gave him bay'ah, they left to Medina. Another group of Sahaba, the leader were our Hussein and Abdullah bin Zubair. So they didn't give bay'ah. They decided, no, we don't want to give a bay'ah to people who is like this. So they left, they went to Makkah, and Abdullah bin Zubair claimed himself as the ruler of Makkah, or Khalifa actually. So what happened in that time, the people in Kufa, they were sending lots of letters to Hussein, the son of Ali, radhiyallahu anhu. Because there were, that time, the Shia mentality people were developing, because they thought, no, Ali is the, Hussein is the grandson of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so he should be the one who should be who should be more appropriate for Khulafa. Anyway, so if we don't get into too much details, so Shia mentality people started sending letters that we want you to be our leader. So now, what Ali did, what Hussein did. Okay, so yeah, I think I talked about all this. let's just go back a little bit. So opposition from Sahaba upon arriving Makkah, Abdullah bin Zubair was given bayah to the people. Okay, these were Ali. So now Ali stayed in Makkah. Hussein ibn Ali stayed in Makkah to worship the Kaaba and avoid fitna. So Kufa people are sending letters inviting him to come there and they will make their Amir. So what Hussein did, he sent his cousin Muslim ibn Aqil to Kufa in Basra. So to assess the situation, like what is happening in there. So Hussein, upon arriving in Kufa, he was given pledge of allegiance to Hussein from 18,000 people. So 18,000 people already gave bayah to Hussein. Okay, so that time, so of course, Yajit's people are not going to be quiet and silent, definitely. So the governor, Numan ibn Bashir, did not stop Muslims. So what Yajit did, he removed Numan ibn Bashir, that, you know what, you're not stopping this, what's happening. So he removed him. So he appointed Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. So who was this Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad? So to stop this uprising in the Kufa, Yazid appointed this man as the governor of both Kufa and Basra. Okay, remember this guy. He was the most brutal governor, the true villain of Karbala, Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. He shuts down the rebellions. He executed Muslim ibn Aqil in public. He killed the cousin of Hussein radhiyallahu anhu, and I'm not going to talk about all this. So eventually all the Muslims were captured and executed. And so what happened? When the people saw that how the governor is massacring and killing people, they just dispersed. They disappeared. However, that time you didn't have internet, you didn't have WhatsApp, you didn't have phone. So they could not inform Hussein radhiyallahu anhu. Okay. However, but the meantime, before Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad killed Muslim ibn Aqil, he wrote a letter to Hussein that, okay, 18,000 people gave you bayah and they want you to be their Amir, so come. Every single Sahaba forbade him not to go. Scholar says it was a ijtihadi mistake by Hussein radhiyallahu anhu. None of these, by the way, are my own interpretation or opinion. These are from the books of and the lectures from my teachers. So Hussein received the letter. Okay, so he decided to leave. He was advised, do not go. Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar, Ibn Zubair, do not go. And then Abdullah bin Zubair even offered him the rule of Makkah. He said, you know what, do not go, I'll give you. You become the ruler of Makkah. But he felt that people are, like the Yazid is not a good ruler. There are people there asking me to help them out. So whatever the reason, he thought that was the right decision. He made his ijtihad and he left. So, but he left knowing that there are people waiting for him to help. Okay. However, on the way Kufa, Hussein learned about that, what happened to Muslim is his, he's talking about his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil. So he found that his family abandoned by their followers, and now Ibn Ziyad's armies are hunting them. He and his family, he means here is Hussein. Hussein and his family moved to Karbala and camped there. Okay. Right now, they are in Karbala, they camped over there. Ibn Yazid sent our two armies to find Hussein, an army. So the army of Amr ibn Sa'd, Ibn Abi Waqqas, and the army of Hur ibn Yazid. So Hur ibn Yazid was among those who had given to pledge to Muslim ibn Aqil. Yajid had ordered Ibn Ziyad to capture Hussein and send him to Yazid. Send him to Yazid. So Yazid did not want Yazid to be, let me rephrase it, a lot of names, tongue twisters. Yazid did not want Hussein to be killed. Let's clear, put it clear. He wanted that go capture Hussein, bring him to me, then I will have a deal with him. Okay. So when he was attacked, Hussein and his family was attacked, he gave 3 options for himself to Ibn Ziyad. So he said, I'm returning to Makkah, and I'm not going to get involved in this anymore. I'm going to be focused on ibadah and not going to get into this. Second, he said, I will join the jihad in the front lines. I'll not get involved in any of this. Or he said, okay, let me take to Yazid, to your Khalifa. We will discuss the issue. However, Ibn Ziyad rejected all 3 and ordered for Amr to attack Hussein. So the tragedy happened that on 10th Muharram, Hussein's family was surrounded by the armies of Amr ibn Sa'd and Shimar. Hur ibn Yazid's army joined Hussein to defend him. Hussein and everybody with him were killed. His body was trampled and his head sent to Ibn Yazid, who sent it to the Yazid. Even Ziyad, sorry, and then who sent it to Yazid. And Yazid actually cried upon seeing the head of Hussein, stating that he did not want this. So the rest of the Hussein's family who were still alive were sent to Medina with security. So the tragedy of our ummah that after only within 50 years of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, his grandson was killed and chopped off by Yajit's army. So after the incident of Karbala, the Muslims in Medina and Muslims in aftermath, right? So the aftermath of Karbala, when this happens, definitely there will be revolt and reaction. So Muslims in Medina and Makkah, they were very, very angry. And obviously, this is an event which no one wants to talk about, okay? Because it is too brutal and I cannot imagine even how this could happen, okay? But as I spoke last time, we need to learn our history. Either it was our fault, it was our mistake, it was our glory. We have to learn this so that we are comfortable and we know the real story, so that when the hypocrites or kuffar, they attack us, they talk us about something, we know our weakness, we know our strength. Okay. So governor of Medina that time, okay, Ibn Zubair openly, so that time, Ibn Zubair openly claimed caliphate in Makkah. Ibn Ziyad refused to attack Ibn Zubair that time, because you know what happened when Ibn Ziyad killed Hussein, he somehow felt it was wrong, because he killed Yazid and he killed Hussein and he was not rewarded by Yazid. So he refused that I'm not going to attack Makkah. And people of Medina were so upset to have a governor who would drink alcohol. So imagine Medina, a place where the city of our prophet. So Yazid appointed a governor in Medina who is alcoholic. So people were like so pissed off. Yazid sent Muslim ibn Uqba to subdue the revolt in Medina. So what happened? Subhanallah, this is another sad history that Muslims, the army of Yazid went to Medina and then they massacred in Medina. Okay. So the head of this army was Muslim ibn Nu'man, who gave this is not the same Muslim. Remember, we were talking about the cousin of Hussein. He already was killed in Karbala. Not Karbala, killed in Kufa. So if you think about it, if we pause for a moment and think about it, how you can, as a Muslim, can go in Medina and kill other Muslims, great scholars are there. Because these armies, they were not practicing Muslims. They were hired to fight. Remember, the Ummah was expanding different era. They were taking over lands. So they were mercenaries, people who fight for money. They don't know what a Sahaba is. They don't know, they haven't seen Prophet Muhammad Sallam. Maybe they became a Muslim, maybe they did not become a Muslim. In any way, they were, and then some of them were barbarians too. Remember, another word for savage. So this shows us, even in golden age, the worst can happen. Okay, even in the best city. So this is the test of our life, and we just need to know, and we get through it. And Makkah. So now what happens? Muslim ibn Uqbah, what he did, this man, he held the city for 3 days, in which people were give the pledge of allegiance to Yazid. Then, okay, one thing I didn't add it here, I should add it here, that he gave 3 days for all the soldiers to do whatever they want to do. Can you imagine? They gave that soldiers can do whatever they want to do for 3 days. So finally, he finished Medina. Then he moved to Makkah. He sent out attack to Makkah. However, he died on his way to Makkah before he could attack Makkah. So what happened that Abdullah ibn Zubair did not go to Damascus. The army leader, just a second, hold on a second. Let's next part. So first he's in Makkah. So what happened? What happened there? Let's go. So Muslims were replaced with Hussein ibn Numayr. You don't have to remember all these. Just remember that. So then there was another person who attacked. This Hussein is not Hussein ibn Ali. Okay. This is a Hussein ibn Numayr. Okay. So Hussein attacked the Makkah and lay siege it to from 27th Muharram until 13th Rabiul Awal. So 10th Muharram, Hussein was killed. Now this is 10th plus 20, so 27th Muharram, Makkah was attacked. So Yazid died 12th Rabiul Awal. So just imagine the situation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a mercy to this ummah. At the tyrannical, dictatorial man, he died within 3 years and 8 months. Okay, so well, when the Khalifa, when the person who gave the order to attack Makkah, he died. So what happened? Right away, this man who was attacking Makkah, he said, okay, you know what? I'm not going to attack Makkah anymore because there's no point. The person who gave me the order, he died. So army leader then offered, just a second. So Ibn Zubair rejected his offer because you know what he did? He said, okay, Ibn Zubair, to go to Damascus and you can go and ask for Khalifat. All right, so let's recap a little bit what happened. So now that Yazid died, his army leader who was attacking Makkah, he stopped attacking. He said, okay, you can go to, because these people, they are like army, they're like a minded, soldier-minded people. So Ibn Zubair, he went to Damascus and claimed, so he offered that Ibn Zubair to go to Damascus and claim Khalifa. Ibn Zubair rejected his offer, so he went to Medina. He offered the Khalifat to Zainul Abidin. Zainul Abidin was not interested at all. He didn't accept. So now, it is a situation now, Ummah is again without Khalifa. So end of Yazid's reign, he was 3 years and 8 months Khalifa. He died at the age of 38. His reign was full of chaos, turmoil, and bloodshed, and it was the first time Ummah had witnessed such a reign. After Yazid died, people of Syria offered the Khalifa to his son Muawiyah II. So I'm going to show you here. So if you see from the first top, Umayya. So from Umayya, they have 3 sons. He had 3 sons. And from there, one chain Abu Sufyan, then Muawiyah 1, and then Yazid 1, and then Muawiyah 2, and Khalid. So this is one chain. Another chain, you don't have to remember all these, just I find it fascinating and I thought to just put it for you guys so that you can just have a little bit of idea what's going on here. So Affan was the father of Uthman. So that's why we call Uthman bin Affan. And Uthman had 2 sons. However, the caliphate stopped there. After Uthman, nobody became Khalifa from his family. However, the major Umayyad dynasty came from Al-Hakam. This is the one I want you guys to remember. So the major part after Yajit, so they're cousins, right? But still under the Umayyad dynasty. So Al-Hakam, Marwan 1, and then Abdul al-Malik, Walid, Suleiman. So 4 sons of Abdul al-Malik, Abdul al-Walid, Suleiman, Yajit 2, Hisham, and then all these. So inshallah, I will try to cover quickly as soon as much as I can. So now the reign of Muawiyah 2. See here. So Yazid's son, Muawiyah 2, because Muawiyah 1 was Yazid's father, Muawiyah 2, he became Khalifa. But imagine the situation, visualize in your head that it is such a chaotic situation was happening. After the death of Yazid, people of Syria elected his son Muawiyah as his next ruler, and Muawiyah too was a very pious and devout Muslim. Do not ask me how, because you know how Muawiyah 1 was a very, very righteous person, Khalifa, and then Yazid was this tyrannical, and then his son was also, again, his son was pious, alhamdulillah. So he disapproved his father's policy regarding Karbala and Makkah and everything. So he was very young, but he was very sick. So he died. He died very quickly. I actually don't have exact days that after how many days he actually died, but like maybe a few weeks after, because he was not Khalifa for a long time. So now the triangle of Khalifs, the civil war starts. So outside of Syria, okay, majority Muslim world chose Abdullah bin Zubair as their Khalif. Iraq, however, was taken over by the Shia. And Marwan ibn Hakam, one of the cousin of Umayyad group, so he took over Caliphate of southern Syria, soon sent armies to take back northern Syria and Egypt from Zubair. He wanted to take back everything from Ibn Zubair. Marwan was able to conquer these areas and bring them all under Umayyad control. Marwan was not successful in taking Iraq or taking Hijaz. So Ummah that time now divided between 3 caliphs. Okay, one is the Shiite Mukhtar ibn Abi Ubaid, one is Abdullah ibn Zubair in Hijaz, and another one is Marwan. I know this, guys, it's probably getting a little bit too much. It's gonna only get too much, I can guarantee. All right, so reign of Marwan ibn Hakam. So Marwan came into power. He came to power through force, okay, moving Caliphate away from the descendants of Muawiyah to the Hakami branch of Umayyad. If we go back, that how he became here, Marwan, okay? So Yajid, son Muawiyah II, when he died, Marwan the son of Al-Hakam, he took over. So definitely he has to put some force to get the Caliphate from there. He was to be, because Khalid ibn Yazid was supposed to be the Caliphate in their family. It's not supposed to be in Islamically. I'm not talking about anything here that was happening according Quran and Sunnah. This is something what in their perspective, okay? So many things here, which you don't have to actually go through all these. All the death of Marwan. So what happened? Marwan died. So when Marwan, interesting thing, before I get into Marwan's death. So what Marwan did, interestingly, he did a very good move. He married Khalid ibn Yazid's mother as a political move. So he actually married Yazid's wife. So now, however, what happened that instead of Marwan, when Marwan is going to die, so he thought that, okay, I have to choose a successor. He did not choose Yazid's son Khalid. He chose his own son, definitely. And he also said a bad comment about the wife of Yazid, who is supposed to be his own wife too now, right? Because Marwan married Yazid's mother. Sorry, Marwan married Yazid's wife. Anyway, this is something, you know, we just have to get through. She killed him because he insulted her publicly. So actually Marwan ruled less than 1 year. So Khalifat now passed to the eldest son of Abdul Malik, as he had decided, and was meant to pass on to, after that, the son of Abdul Aziz and the death of Abdul Malik. So these are something just in their wills, definitely. So reign of Abdul Malik, let's talk about from here. This is something that I want you to remember, Abdul Malik, the name of Abdul Malik, because he ruled for 20 years. And the Caliphate stays 100 years after that in this family. Okay, so the first time ever Islam started as an empire. No other empire won't reach this level of piety, because Abdul Malik was trying. So Abdul Malik came to the power during a time when Ummah was divided already between 3 Khalifs. He immediately sought to bring all territories under Umayyad's rule. And then Mukhtar, the Shia Khalif, he lost the Caliphate when his army was defeated. Then Ummah was now split between Ibn Zubair and the Umayyads. Okay, so now think about Abdul Malik is the Khalifa. Shia and those people got defeated. So now Ibn Zubair is still in Makkah and the Umayyads in Syria. Ibn Zubair was losing support, and leading scholars like Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar did not want to take sides in this civil war. Why Ibn Zubair was losing? What do you guys think? Why Ibn Zubair was losing his support? Because, you know, it was a time of civil war. Medina was massacred. Makkah was sieged once. So many things going on. Civil war. Umayyads are killing each other. Like, it's just such a mess going on around. And Ibn Zubair, Abdullah ibn Zubair, he was not as skilled administrator as Umayyads, as I was talking about before. Okay, so many people actually, he was losing a lot of supporters that time. Now, Umayyads wanted to bring everybody under one Khalifa, but Abdullah ibn Zubair was not backing up. Think about the perspective. They were thinking of a perspective of a king, not as a righteous, or, you know, those things are not in these calculations for these kings. So one by one, they all fell back into hands of Umayyads, leaving Ibn Zubair with few followers in Makkah. Abdul Malik appointed Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. I want you guys to remember this guy's name, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, as governor of Iraq, in charge of ending Ibn Zubair's rule. So no matter what, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was supposed to get rid of Abdullah ibn Zubair. All right, it's gonna only get interesting from here. So Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was a very cruel. He was a harsh man. He was so cruel. He was so brutal. Like, he would not allow anyone to come in front of him. Anybody is opposing Umayyads. Although, interestingly, it was Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. He was the one who introduced the dots, the vowel signs into Quran, to make it easy for non-Arabs to recite. Can you imagine? The same guy who did such a favor to the non-Arabs, Muslims, On the other hand, he was a cruel, he was a harsh guy. Okay, so what happened? So this is going to be the second siege of Makkah. Siege means they are attacking Makkah from outside, like, siege. You're forcingly stopping something. Okay, Hajjaj besieged Makkah for many months, and attacked it with catapults. And actually Makkah, the Kaaba was destroyed that time. Or some says destroyed, some says Kaaba was not destroyed entirely, but it was it was affected badly. Okay. All right, so he only stopped during the month of Hajj. Rest of the time he was having the siege. Okay, so Abdullah ibn Zubair started to realize that he's not going to stay as a Khalif anymore. And Abdullah ibn Zubair, okay, so attack only stopped a few days. Even in Kaaba was broken by his catapults. Ibn Zubair followers abandoned him. They took their last stand in Makkah. And what happened that Abdullah ibn Zubair was martyred? The Ummah now had one Khalif, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And the civil war, which lasted for 10 years, was over, finally. So who was this Abdullah ibn Zubair? Remember, he was the son of Asma bint Abu Bakr. He was a grandson of Abu Bakr. So I have to tell a little bit of extra story here about Abdullah ibn Zubair, because it is a very sad story of our Muslim Ummah this time. Because when he was killed, he was martyred. His body was hung in front of Makkah to show that anyone who else dare to fight against Umayyad, this is going to be the situation. Anyway, Asma bint Abu Bakr was brave in her young age, and she was brave in her old age. So she did not give, so they were asking a lot of information, like Hajjaj bin Yusuf's group, where they were asking a lot of information to her. Anyway, so as an old and blind lady, she was against this tyrant, and she asked Hajjaj bin Yusuf, get down the body of Abdullah ibn Zubair, because everybody was stunned and quiet, and they were afraid. Nobody was talking anything, but she was the one who she went. And most of the part we will see that when we were talking, we're not going to see a lot of women figures in these jihads and caliphate, because that was not the situation of the women that time. But when it comes to scholarly work and teaching of fiqh and hadith and teaching of Quran and all these, we will see the women sahabis and women leaders there. We will not discuss much actually about the female leaders in the battleground. So this is just a side note. Anyway, so why are we learning all this? As I said also, we take a little bit of lesson. So Abdullah bin Zubair, he was a great Sahaba. However, he also did some political mistakes. How? Because he was not letting go the claim of becoming a Khalifa. Because he thought, if I let it go, the whole Ummah is going under a tyrant. However, he was extremely pious. His khushua in Salah is well known, but the decisions he made cost him his life, many people's life, and this was political ijtihad, which we're not here to judge. So now the aftermath, okay? So when Prophet Muhammad died, within this 100 years, we already have 2 civil wars, okay? It only shows that without the mercy of Allah, we are doomed, okay? Humanity is complex, and no one is entirely good and entirely evil. First off, so regarding Abdullah ibn Zubair, so No, I'm not talking about him, sorry. All right, so the civil war lasted 14 years. The war ended during the reign of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, who reinstated the Umayyad Empire. This was the second civil war in the first decade of Islamic history. The Ummah are flawed and we rely on Allah's mercy to enter paradise. All right, let's go to the next. So Abdullah ibn Malik ibn Marwan, all the oppositions to the Umayyad were removed during his reign. He was known for his piety, his scholarship coming into power. So think about it. So he was known for his piety. He was known for his scholarship. He was known for this. But he is a man who appointed Hajjaj bin Yusuf to abolish all the people who were against Umayyad. Sometimes it really doesn't make sense, but this is how the history. And he was also known for the father of kings. So who was the known for father of kings? Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Walid and Sulaiman and Yazid and Hisham. And second founder of Ummayyad Dynasty, he ruled over 20 years. The Muslim empire expanded greatly, 13 years without any opposition, and Islamic coins were invented in that time because he was, that time Muslims were still using Roman currency. First time in his time, Muslims started their coin currency during the time of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Okay, and his time, the Ummah expanded huge, more than even the time of, I think, no, it's not actually his time. Sorry, I take it back. I'm already spinning my head. All right, so if you look at this time, I put this because in this time he started a flag currency. He made Arabic as a national language. Okay, and before Muslim used to grow and grow, but now his time it became a civilization. So 70 years after the Hijrah, the Ummah, now they have their own language, own currency, own flag. They became an empire, and it's a miracle because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent to a tribe where they didn't have any civilization. It was just like a sandwich. Arab was a sandwich between a Roman and Persian. And he was told, Prophet Muhammad was told that one day Muslims will be ruling Syria, and that will be less than 100 years. Islam will spread it. And happened despite the fact that even civil wars were going, even the Khalifs were killing each other for power and this and that. But Islam spread it in more than 3 continents by that time. Okay. However, a lot of people in that time, they were not drinking alcohol. They were not fornicating. There were a lot of pious people, and they were working on innovations. And even their ruler was not the best pious leader. Civilization started to rise. And on the other side of the mountain, the China were not interacting with Muslim that time. So now we're going to go quickly. I think I'm actually almost out of my time. The reign of Walid ibn Abdul Malik. So who is Walid? Walid is one of the son of here. Remember I said here, look, father of the kings. So Walid, and then Sulaiman, then Yazid, and then Hisham. These are the 4 sons of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. So now Walid's time. His reign also faced no opposition from Muslims. Muslims actually, during the time of Walid bin Abdul Malik, Muslim empire expanded greatly, even more than the time of Omar. Because we know that the time of Omar, that the Muslim Ummah expanded the highest during the time of rightly guided Khalif. And then next it expanded during the time of Walid ibn Abdul Malik. So the expeditions and expansions were carried out mainly by 3 generals, Muhammad ibn Qasim, Musa ibn Nusair, and Qutaybah ibn Muslim. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, that time, was appointed governor of Medina in his reign, but later he was removed to the request of Hajjaj bin Yusuf. So I will talk about this a little bit later when I discuss about Umar ibn Abdulaziz. So this is the time Spain was conquered by Tariq ibn Ziyad during his reign. So now Muslims are expanded. And then Muhammad ibn Qasim, he expanded Islam to India. That's where my ancestors are from, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and all this area. So the Islam now reached over there, and Spain, the Islam reached over there. So every direction, everything is expanding. Parts of the India was conquered. Okay, King Walid, I talked about that. And then this famous Ummayyad Masjid, the picture I had at the first, it was built during the time of King Walid. And he was the first Umayyad ruler to pay scholars a salary. So he started paying scholars a salary. So who are the scholars? That the people who were actually learning about Islam, collecting hadiths, they were fiqh and all these. So he started this tradition that from now on, the scholars will have their salary from the king. So he fell into dispute with his brother Suleiman, who was supposed to succeed him, but he wanted his son to succeed, definitely. Umar ibn Abdulaziz was imprisoned for supporting Suleiman's right to succession, because, you know, as the father, he said, okay, first my son Walid, and then Suleiman, then this and that. But then all of a sudden Walid decided, you know what, I'm not going to give my brother the Khalifa. I'm going to give it to my son. And then whenever you do it, definitely, because Suleiman was waiting, and he was, of course, it happened. So did you know that Muhammad bin Qasim, the Umayyad leader who conquered Sindh, the place in India, he was a teenager. I found this was fascinating. So if you see Sindh, this pink area, and this is our Khalifat. So it was expanded here, and he was actually a teenager, this guy, Muhammad ibn Qasim. So now Suleiman became next Khalif after the Walid, and he was known for two things. Suleiman tortured and humiliated the general who supported Walid. He killed all of them. Muhammad ibn Qasim, Musa ibn Nusair, Tariq ibn Ziyad, and Qutayballah ibn Muslim. Suleiman had appointed his cousin, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, as a chief advisor. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he was the grandson of Marwan ibn Hakam. He is from Abdul Aziz, from Abdul Aziz. We have to give it a little bit of time for Umar bin Abdul Aziz. So now Umar bin Abdul Aziz appointed his successor, his brother. One by one, I'm going to just go quickly. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. So who was this Umar ibn Abdul Aziz? His father was supposed to succeed Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, but passed away while Abdul Malik was still the king. You don't have to remember all these guys. He was the great grandson. So Umar bin Abdul Aziz was the great grandson of our Umar ibn al-Khattab from the mother side. Okay. He was very educated by his grandparents' brother, Abdullah bin Umar, and he grew up in Medina. So the environment to growing up of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was not in the palace. He didn't grow up in the palace of Umayyads. That's why he was so different from the rest of the Umayyads. He grew up in Medina. So he was governor of Medina in the time of Walid, and he's actually my hero. So then what happened, if you remember, let's see. He was governor of Medina in the time of Walid, then the advisor to the king during the reign of Suleiman, then he became the Khalif himself. This is a short, like a nutshell version of it. However, let's go and expand a little bit more. During the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he was Khalifa only for a very short period of time. Umar was hesitant to accept the Khalifate, but when he did accepted it, he set about to bring instant reforms. So before we go into that, let's talk quickly. I didn't add those things in here. So North Africa was already taken over by Muslim that time. Spain was, people in Spain, they realized that Muslims were very just, okay? And the Christian kings that time in Spain were very corrupted and oppressive. If we remember that at the beginning I said that always we're going to see that wherever there is an injustice, there is corruption going on, people would seek new leadership. Okay, they didn't care about the religion that much because people can't live their daily life, so they had to look for different leadership. So they saw that, okay, North Africa, how the Muslims are ruling there, it's good. So the Jewish and the Christians, they actually asked Muslims to help. So then Walid were able to, his army were able to go invade and took over Spain in the help of the people over there, Jewish and the Christians. So Walid builds the Umayyad Masjid in Spain over there. And now, I just wanted to add that over in side note. Reigns of Ibn Abdul Aziz. So when he was the governor in Medina, what happened? Because his in-laws and cousins, they were the king, right? So they make him governor. He was a young man. He grew up in Medina. He was very righteous, very just. So people loved Umar bin Abdul Aziz. People were moving into living Medina from Makkah, from people are coming from everywhere. They want to live in Medina. And that was not taken very well by our Hajjaj bin Yusuf. Of course not. So he became very jealous. And he complained to the king, Walid, that, people are now moving into Umar's bin Ajiz's place in Medina. So, Walid removed him from government position from the Medina. However, he asked Umar to come to Damascus. So Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he was very sad to leave the blessed city. However, he didn't know Allah had a better plan for him because he's going to be soon the Khalifa. All right. So he was married to the Princess Fatima bint Abdul Malik. She was not like other princes that time whatsoever. She was known for her aesthetic, Malika ibn Zahida, and she had a very righteous lineage too. So many historians call Umar bin Abdul Aziz the fifth rightly guided Khalif. Why? Because as soon as he became Khalif, he started to live a simple life. He tried to reform the excess of the Umayyads, and he halted the expansion of an empire and focused on reform instead. Okay, let's talk about a little bit. Jizya. Remember we were talking about jizya? What was the jizya? That when the non-Muslims are living in a land of Muslims, they had to pay a tax. However, the Umayyads, they used to take taxes from the new Muslims still. So let's say somebody became Muslim. So now, according to the Islamic, according to Islamic rule, you don't take taxes from those new Muslims, but the Umayyads used to keep taking taxes from them. So people were upset. People were getting upset with the Umayyads for their this killing each other, their power grabbing, and all this luxury life they were started living and taking jizya. Even they became Muslims. So as soon as Umar bin Abdul Aziz became Khalifa, he removed the jizya that was imposed on the converts. He sent scholars to do dawah to the non-Muslims under his rule. So what he did, he saw that the land expanded enormously, like vast land of Islamic rule, like enormously. So he halts the offensive jihad at that time, even though that was the time of that was the culture of Middle Age, as we were talking last week, that the time of Middle Age was offensive jihad, because either you attack someone or someone will attack you. So that was the norm, which is not the norm now, because we have the international peace treaty, we have set boundary of the countries, but that was not the case in that time. So he halts expansion of the empire. He focused to reform our Muslims inside, he sent scholars to every land to educate people, because he thought that, these people became Muslims, we conquered the land, but we don't know their Islamic knowledge, their Aqidah, their situation, what is going on there. So he sent scholars to give dawah to those people, non-Muslims, because just because they conquered the land doesn't mean that everybody became Muslim, right? People had a choice to pay tax and remain their own, continue their own religion. There was no compulsion. However, but they wanted to give dawah to those non-Muslims. So he sent scholars group by group in different lands. This was his wisdom behind it, okay? And he wanted to focus on more development. He appointed a very good governor in Spain, because Spain was far. You know what he did? He increased the salaries of scholars and teachers. So Walid started that tradition of paying scholars and the teachers. Scholarship to Islam increased dramatically during his reign. Dramatically, people were talking about knowledge, even in the markets. People were talking about like knowledge everywhere. Within this 2 years, I think he was there for 2 years and 8 months, something. This is so short time. People, the change he brought, it was amazing. So he also started census, that how many cities we have in Islamic land, how many people are there, how many mountains we have, how many offices we have, so he developed a very advanced social development. He suggested to the scholars to compile hadith books. I think I need to talk about a little bit about the collection of hadith here very quickly. We are running out of time. So Umar bin Abdulaziz, he worked to reform the Muslim world in every era, every way, including economically, politically, in terms of dawah and educations. And the Umayyads were very unsatisfied, definitely, because the wealth and luxury they were used to, all of a sudden you come and you just say, oh, you know what, you can't do this anymore. You have to give back all your money that you took from people. And these are people's money. So you have to give them back to the government, so that the government can use it for the people. So they got really upset, definitely. So scholars says that actually Umar bin Abdulaziz emulates his great grandfather in terms of collecting the hadith, because Umar radhiyallahu anhu, he's the one who first compiled. He is the one, right? Remember, he compiled the Quran as a one book. So when his grandson came, he started giving projects to scholars that now we have to start collecting hadith books, make it a compilation of hadith books. So there is a group, Quranian groups, right? They say that, oh, hadiths are not right. We don't believe these hadiths. These were compiled very, very later, maybe 1,000 years or 100, like many 100 years after Prophet Muhammad ﷺ died. That's not right. That's lie. Because we can see that during the time of Umar bin Abdulaziz, he actually took it as a project. He ordered that we have to start compiling the hadith, because sometimes we think that hadith compilation started from Bukhari and Muslim. Actually, that's not right. Preserving hadith started 1st century of Islam. Okay, when the Bukhari and Muslim hadith book came, it became like a 1st generation, 2nd generation, and 3rd generation, 4th generations. So these became more, I would say, filtered, more authentic, more filtered. But it started very early. So anything you can think of our information, it happened during the time of Umar bin Abdulaziz. Subhanallah, Allah knows best how he did it. In the time of only 2.5 years, the amount he was able to accomplish was more than decades a king can actually do. Definitely, Umayyads were not happy with him. They poisoned him. They actually bribed his slave to poison him, and he died. Okay, so when you read the history books written by Christians, they will say that this is the time was the Dark Ages. Dark Age. You will read Dark Age. Was it Dark Age for us? It was not a Dark Age for us. So that's why it is important to know our perspective of the history, that yes, it was dark age going on in Europe. Yes, it was dark age going on in different area. We will inshallah talk about those coming weeks, but it was not dark age for Muslims. Okay. All right. So again, this one, Abdul Malik, Walid, Suleiman, Yajit, and Hisham, and then now here we see Omar II. He is called actually Omar II. The first Omar was Omar bin Khattab, and then now Omar bin Abdul Aziz. All right, we are almost done. Before I finish, inshallah, we're gonna look into this timeline as we did it last week. Prophet Muhammad, if we go the first week, Roman Empire began, Roman Empire splitted, West Roman fall, Justinian Empire happened between 526 AD, 565, and in that time, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born. 570, Prophet Muhammad was born, and then he became all these, right? All these things happened. Prophet Muhammad passed away in 630 AD, and then all the rightly guided Khulafa Rashidin finished their time 632. So Umayyad Khalifa, okay, this is a little bit too much, guys, I know. If you can just take a snap, like a screenshot of this. I started from here 600 because I couldn't finish here, right side. I can't keep going in here. I need probably a big thing. So if I start from here, 632 AD, so Khulafa Rashidin was here 661 AD, and then Muawiyah ruled for 20 years. He died at 680 AD, and then Yajit died within 3 years. Allah had mercy on this ummah that Yajit died that time, 683, and then Marwan ibn Hakam took over. Marwan ibn Hakam ruled over for actually 20 years. And this time, if you remember, Abdullah bin Zubair was killed in 692. Makkah was in siege for 6 months by Hajjaj bin Yusuf. Catapults were used to destroy Makkah. Abdullah bin Zubair was killed, and he was hanged in front of the Makkah, and the siege ended. Okay, so after Marwan ibn al-Hakam's ruling, Islam expanded. Lots of growth and development happened that time. So then he died. After he died, his sons became Khalifa. I didn't add those. Here. It will become so clumsy here. I just jumped into Umar bin Abdul Aziz. He was chosen at 717. He died at 770 AD. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was killed. So now, end of the Umayyad Dynasty. Okay. Umayyad Dynasty was end by 749 AD. And then Abbasids dynasty emerged. Okay, I'm going to talk about a quickly little bit here so that next week, inshallah, when we talk about Abbasids dynasty, we have a little, a quick understanding what was happening. So Abbasids took over here and they killed, and the last Umayyads here, there are a lot of Umayyads, Caliphs came here. I'm not going to go into those details. We don't need to know them for now. However, one Umayyad, Abdurahman, he escaped. This time 750, and he went to Spain. Inshallah, we will talk about that, a separate class. It will need a separate class for that. So this is, I had to put them in here. I'm not going to read about this. So just the last Caliph, Marwan ibn Muhammad, he was the last Caliph. He was killed by first Abbasid Khalif. Okay, so that is, I think that is all for our for today. However, last piece, like last final comment. So why do you, so there was not mistake, but there I found in the book that scholar says that Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he brought too much change, all of a sudden a big change for his family, Umayyads, right? All of a sudden. So But he did not bring that same style of change for the rest of the country. So the rest of the country actually started to have a slow progression of change, and it flourished in his time. But I think, not I think, actually it is in the book, what was his fiqh or his idea at that time, that these money are from the people's money. So my family is actually capturing everybody's money, and it is haram. This money is haram. I have to right away give people's haqq. So he took away the money and the wealth from these Umayyad's kings and princes, and he gave away right away, returned it to the government. So that's why when you change and bring a sudden change, all of a sudden people snap. Okay, it is not a sin for him. It is just a discussion I found from a book. It has there is a book about Umar bin Abdul Aziz. It's a wonderful book. So Umar bin Abdul Aziz was an exception. It was a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this ummah that was needed very badly that time. Okay, we can ask Allah to have a leader like him. And also one more thing before I finish today. So the bad kings and the good kings. One thing we have to understand, these people, everybody was Muslim, they were Muslim. Okay, they called themselves Muslims. We are not here to judge that, okay, he killed this Sahaba, he killed that Sahaba, so now I'm going to call him Muslim, he is a kafir. No, we're not here to do this. We're here to learn the history. They call themselves Muslims and they have passed away. And Allah, they have gotten what they deserved. If we find any good, pious, righteous Khalif, we say Rahimallah. If we see that they have done atrocious activity, they have killed and brutally all these people, we stay silent. Because this is not the way of Salaf, that we're going to come and go and tell this was non-Muslim, this was non-Muslim. Okay, so we ask Allah to forgive them, we ask Allah to forgive ourselves. And also remember, we have never experienced wealth, that much wealth in our life. No one. The wealth that Umayyads were dealing with, it was a fitna for them, because they didn't know how to, those Arab tribes, they had no idea, they had no precedence, they had no experience to learn from. Because when the Abbasids came later on, they built their reign based on what Umayyads made mistakes. But for the Umayyads, they didn't have that set of examples. They were dealing with wealth and their greed and all this. So I ask Allah that Allah, alhamdulillah, Allah did not put us in that fitna, that test in our life. And Jazakallah khair for listening. May Allah guide us for what is a realistic solution for our religion. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I will. So the discussions that if you lived in the time of Umayyads, how would you tell people about Islam who lived oceans away from Islam? Imagine, because you don't have internet, you don't have WhatsApp, you don't have Facebook, you don't have TV and radio, you don't have anything. How you're going to, what do you think? You can answer through your chat if you're listening to me. I hope people are still here. Doves? Yeah, I think they were using doves. They had that time doves, right? But what else? What do you think? And why did Umayyad expand the Islamic empire? Anything? You guys can type chats. Can we talk? Yeah, sure. Let's pause the, I guess I can stop recording.